Hosted by you/cleanyo act up. Dating for 4 months. I, 24F, am the kind of person who cannot let dirty dishes sit in the sink for longer than an hour, flosses every single day, and is constantly scrubbing my bathroom. My boyfriend, 24M, not so much. I noticed pretty early on that organization and cleanliness weren't as high a priority for him as they are for me, but at the time, I only observed things like clutter on his floor and unfolded clothes. I figured it was a normal level of bachelor slob, and I thought I could live with it. I mean, I can get pretty messy too when I'm especially busy in the lab, and other things just take higher priority. However, as we've grown more comfortable around each other, he has really begun to relax and reveal the true extent of his bachelor frog tendencies. He will wear the same clothes for days on end, even if he worked out in them. In the morning, he often avoids brushing his teeth, saying he'll do it after he eats because then I can be even cleaner, and then conveniently forgets after breakfast. He doesn't wash his hair because he read somewhere that the oils in your hair will reach equilibrium, and you'll no longer look greasy. This may be true for some people, but it doesn't seem to apply to him. Plus, I think you're still supposed to rinse your hair, just not use shampoo, but he doesn't always rinse his hair regularly because he will go multiple days without showering properly. He does usually shower right before seeing me, thankfully, but on days when I catch him by surprise, he's usually unshowered. I haven't investigated his hairy man bum, but judging from certain smells once or twice during intimacy, I'm not convinced he wipes well every time. One time, I walked in on him in the bathroom, and he was wiping his willy on the curtain. After intimacy, I always go to pee while he throws away the condom, or that was the plan, anyway. I helped him move out of his sublet this month and found something like 30 used condoms under his bed because he must just have forgotten. Whenever he has some private time to himself, he just lets his bodily fluids dry wherever it may land. He thinks I don't know this, but the suspiciously discolored and stiff spots on his blankets are one of many signs. He always washes his willy in the sink before we have intimacy and claims it's because he just really likes being clean. However, the one time I pinned him down and took off his pants for a surprise, his pubes were crusty. The thing is, as foul as all this makes him sound, he doesn't come off as obviously foul when you meet him. He doesn't smell horrible, just strongly like deodorant, which I suspect he rubs all over his body when he doesn't want to bathe. He is actually pretty stylish. He works as a programmer in a research context, spending most of his time alone or hanging out with equally gross computer scientists, so there's been little incentive for him to clean up in the past because nobody seems to care that much. I am his first girlfriend and probably the only one of his friends who is habitually close enough in his personal space to notice when his breath is funky or he has dirt encrusted on the back of his neck. Actually, most of the things I outlined above he probably thinks I haven't noticed, because he always tries to clean himself up and hide the signs if he knows we're meeting up. I suspect that a lot of his gross behavior is really just because he thinks he's getting away with it, rather than actually enjoying being this gross. I've observed him getting a little cleaner when he finally realizes other people are judging him. He's started brushing his teeth and washing his clothes more often, for instance, and he often pretends that he really prizes hygiene, even commenting on his co-worker's body odor, etc. I've tried subtly hinting that he should clean up, and he always says, "Oh yeah, I should do that," and then he'll make sure to clean better right before I show up at his place. But if I ever spot him around town on a day when we don't have anything planned, he's all gross again. Clearly, subtlety is not working. However, I don't want to completely shame him either, nor do I want to have to be his mom and nag him all the time. I'm okay with a certain level of messiness. This isn't a total deal breaker for me, especially because the rest of our relationship is actually so darn good. I can even live with the general messiness of his home and personal space if we were to move in together. It's just his personal hygiene that really bothers me. I know I can't fundamentally change him, but can I at least get him to wipe his bum better? Update 2 months later. I felt a lot better after reading all of your comments. I was feeling guilty about judging him for his hygiene habits because I know that different people have different attitudes towards cleanliness, and I am definitely on the obsessive end of the spectrum. I took your suggestions to heart and decided to just sit him down and get everything out in the open. I framed it both as a quality of life issue, he might get diseases, etc., if not clean, and a professional issue, other people might notice, which could affect his career and networking opportunities. I tried to be respectful but clear, and I stated that although I really like him and can see myself with him for the long term, if he continued not to wipe his bum properly, I would have to consider that a deal breaker. He was very quiet and didn't have much to say at the end of the conversation, but he apologized for making me uncomfortable and said he would try to shape up. He explained that because of his passion for his work, it's easy for him to lose track of time and forget to do things like laundry, and he appreciated me for bringing up the issue. After that conversation, about a month ago, I saw lots of positive changes. He did 1 load of laundry, though he dyed all his white shirts pink, which kind of worries me because I feel like this is something you figure out how not to do as a freshman in college at the very latest. So has he just never done laundry before or what? Started shaving and taking out the trash weekly, and always smelled fresh whenever I saw him. He even cleaned the bathtub. I was really proud of his progress. I did notice, though, that he would get frustrated when I pointed out things he missed, like always having dirty dishes in the sink or not washing the kitchen floor, which is currently really gross because someone tracked mud and dog crap all over it. Now comes the bad part, where I'm ashamed of myself and the way I acted. 2 nights ago, he was over at my place and he smelled a little funky. I asked him if he had brushed his teeth that day and mentioned I had a new bottle of mouthwash if he wanted to use it. He completely blew up at me. He said he didn't appreciate me treating him like a child and that I needed to respect that he was an adult capable of making his own decisions, which were none of my business. I admit I didn't handle the situation well. I got really mad and said that if he didn't want to be treated like a child, then he shouldn't act like a toddler who couldn't even wipe his bum. That set off one of those burn the fields and salt the ground type fights that last for hours. He said I was being really controlling and condescending and that I needed to watch myself because it was bordering on emotional abuse. He also said that he was already really clean, especially now that he was showering every day, so I should stop nagging him about it. I tried to clarify that I was proud of him for showering every day, but he just took it as passive-aggressive and got so mad he called me an uptight beach, grabbed his coat, and left the bedroom, slamming the door. I didn't know what to do, especially since we've never had a fight this intense before, and he's definitely never called me a beach, so I decided to just sit in the bedroom and let him cool down until he was willing to talk reasonably again. But after 20 minutes, he still hadn't come back, and I couldn't hear him stomping around the common areas of the house anymore. I started to get really worried. What if he had stormed out and gotten hit by a car? He also has a history of self-injury, so I was really concerned. I ran through the house and saw the light on in the ground floor bathroom. I suddenly remembered I had left my surgical kit on the sink. I know this sounds weird, but I work in a lab and don't want to keep my nice tools out because stuff gets stolen, and I got really scared that he had found it and was quiet because he was cutting or something. I burst through the bathroom door, and he was rubbing his willy on the curtain. My curtain. Obviously, I flipped out and asked him what the F was wrong with him since there was toilet paper right there in the cabinet if he needed a new roll. He got really defensive and restarted the fight where we left off. In retrospect, I guess it was kind of funny because he still had his willy out at this point. I just kept staring at my curtain and trying to resist the urge to slap his stupid face. I asked him what the F he had been doing and why the F he thought it was appropriate. He angrily said it was my fault for yelling at him and that it felt good and added, "Would you rather I just not effing clean my willy because I'm pretty sure we just had a whole effing fight about this BS." I told him he was disgusting and that I was going to break up with him because he was such a slob. He said, "Are you really going to break up with me over a curtain? Really now? Really? Is that how much you value our relationship?" I shouted, "Yes, get the F out of my house, you stupid idiot," and pushed him out of the house. He tried to calm me down and apologize, but I was so irrationally mad that I kept slapping his arm and slammed the door in his face. Eventually, I heard his car start and drive away. I was still so mad that I didn't apologize at the time and sent him a kind of mean text, "I can pick up my stuff in the morning. I know it must be hard for you to act like a human being, but please try not to wipe your willy on my things in the meantime." That was 2 days ago, and I still haven't gotten my stuff. He finally texted me back yesterday afternoon and said, "I'm sorry about the curtain, and I'm sorry we're ending it this way. Can you call me?" Now that I've calmed down, I really miss him. I promise he's really amazing as a person, and we've never had any kind of fight like this before. I feel like we were both acting in ways we never thought we'd act, and I also feel really ashamed of myself for some of the mean things I said. I feel like I hugely overreacted in the fight and definitely shouldn't have gotten physical at the end when I shoved him out of the house. I feel a little bit like the rhetorical crazy you shouldn't put your willy into. I wish there was some way to fix this, but I don't know how. I've never had a big relationship fight before. Even though I want to make up with him and apologize for my behavior and for slapping/pushing him, I don't want him to think he can just backslide into gross habits again. I'm not sure how to navigate that conversation. I guess if we do end up breaking up, I'll have a lot of free time on my hands for new hobbies. Maybe I can learn DIY home improvement and remodel my bathroom, or sew some new curtains. That was a joke, but I'm sorry if it wasn't very funny because I'm feeling really down right now. Also, sorry for the length. I just had to get it out. Added info on the shower curtain. So, I wasn't going to describe this because it makes the whole thing sound even more ridiculous, and I also felt bad about essentially taking away my boyfriend of his dignity on the internet. However, there have been a lot of questions about this, and since I'm heartbroken anyway, someone might as well get some entertainment out of it. He was kind of holding his willy with one hand and slapping the curtain with it. I don't know how else to describe it. I think maybe he was trying to simultaneously shake off the pee and wipe the tip for efficiency. Second update 1 month later. Since you were all so helpful before, I thought I would give a final update for anyone who was interested. After I read all your comments last time, I didn't really know what to do. On one hand, it really struck me when multiple people said I must not have any self-respect to stay with and sleep with someone who was so unclean and handling the situation so immaturely, as was I, to be fair. But on the other hand, he really was the best boyfriend I've ever had, and I kept missing him and basically behaving like a caricature of the lonely, dumped girl, craving ice cream and all. I mean, it's not like he never wiped his bum, and he really was trying at the end. I kept thinking maybe I hadn't described the situation properly and that if I had been better at explaining it, people wouldn't have piled on him so much. I just kept going back and forth, becoming more and more anxious that I wasn't going to make the right decision, and getting more anxious about how to respond to his text, worried we'd have some drawn-out, multi-hour conversation about the state of the relationship if I did reply. On top of that, I had a ton of finals coming up that week and couldn't afford to be anxious about this, which, of course, only made me more anxious. When I get anxious or scared, unfortunately, my response is to freeze and avoid. So, I just didn't respond to his text at all, thinking that maybe if I slept on it, I'd figure out what to do. The next day, I kept rereading his text again and again instead of working, so I decided to turn my phone off to avoid distractions. I don't have that many friends here anyway, so I figured nobody would be looking for me. He emailed me a couple of times at my school email, but it was just stuff like, "Hey, did you get my text?" So I ignored it. When I turned my phone back on 2 days later, there were literally 50 missed calls and tons of texts. They started out nice, just asking what I thought and saying he missed me, but by the most recent texts, he was calling me a beach, telling me to go F myself, calling me ugly, saying nobody liked me, and calling nonstop. I seriously didn't know what to do. I haven't dated that many people before, but I'm pretty sure this isn't normal behavior for a breakup. For the rest of the day, I kept getting texts and emails from him. All the emails were oddly harmless sounding, but the texts were really mean. I kept trying to ignore it and avoid the situation, yeah, kind of a pattern, but after a couple more days of this BS, I finally put my big girl pants on and texted back, "I don't want to talk. Please stop contacting me." Then I blocked his phone number and set a filter to send all his emails to spam. I figured he'd eventually get bored and calm down. After I sent that text, he didn't try to contact me through any other avenues, and we don't have mutual friends, so I thought we'd just avoid each other and that would be the end of it. Plus, it was finals week, so I wasn't going out anyway, and I'm not super social, so whatever. After my last exam, I decided to celebrate by going out for beers with my housemates. They're pretty nice, even though we don't hang out a lot. At the bar, I saw Matt. He tried to make eye contact, but I avoided him and had a good time with my housemates for the rest of the night. When we got back home, he was sitting on my front steps. He stood up when we got there and asked if we could talk. I didn't really want to, but since we were at my house and 2 of my housemates are pretty strong guys, I figured it wasn't like anything could happen. Plus, I thought maybe it would be good for him to have closure, so I said, "Fine, but only for 5 minutes, and asked my housemates to wait for me inside. The first thing he asked was why I didn't reply to his texts and said it hurt his feelings, which I thought was kind of BS. So, I told him that he hurt my feelings with his texts, that what he said was really out of line, and that I wasn't interested in engaging further with him. I reminded him that I had already asked him not to contact me again. Then he started apologizing, saying he didn't realize his texts would hurt me. He claimed he was just saying random stuff to get a rise out of me because he was upset I was ignoring him, and that he didn't mean any of it and was really sorry. He said he was acting out because he was so stressed about his quals, that he missed me so much, and that he thought about me every night. He said he understood if I didn't want to interact with him again, but asked if we could please try again. I let him talk for a couple of minutes, and as I listened, I just kept getting madder and madder because it all sounded like such BS. But I didn't want to escalate like last time, so I let him finish and then calmly said that I had originally considered trying again, but after all the craziness of the texts and how upset they made me, I didn't think it was a good idea. He said he was even more upset with himself and missed me so much that he couldn't focus on his quals and was probably going to fail them if we didn't get back together because he couldn't think of anything else. I told him I was really sorry, but I wasn't comfortable interacting with him anymore, and I'd like him not to contact me ever again. I also told him I was sure he'd manage to pass his quals without me. At this, he started sputtering and getting really mad, calling me a beach again, so I opened the front door quickly. Luckily, one of my big housemates was waiting for me by the kitchen table. He stood up and told Matt, "You need to shut up and leave my house, right now." Thank God, Matt just gave up and left. For the next week, I started getting texts from a different number that were clearly from Matt, along with emails from different addresses. Mostly angry stuff about how he hoped I'd get what was coming to me. I just blocked everything. By the end of the week, the emails kind of petered out. Huge sigh of relief. I managed to pass all my exams despite all this stress, which was another huge sigh of relief. Finally, I've been hanging out with my housemates more, especially the guy who made Matt leave. It's been really nice having new friends. They're funny and awesome. After I told them about all the crazy stuff that happened and how totally disgusting Matt was, they went out and got me a breakup box with ice cream, chocolate, Clorox wipes, and a brand new shower curtain. Commenter. I'm proud of him for showering every day. He was really trying to wipe his bum? WTF, the bar is literally in hell, and this dude is playing limbo with the devil.